Today's edition of the program, the newspapers are telling us that more separatist fighters are falling as the population keep rising against those who are masquerading as liberators. Meanwhile, they are oppressor, according to what some newspapers are telling us. In a locality in Meme division of the Southwest region, the population has arrested, beaten, and handed over some separatists or generals in that part of the country to the defense and security forces. We shall tell you more on that, not leaving out the election of Samuel Etofis, which is under threat, his regime, as we are told this time around, a verdict or a landmark verdict to be delivered by the Court of Arbitration for Sports in Switzerland that may see Eto's election cancelled at the helm of Fekafur. We shall tell you more on that in this edition of the program. Bomutongina Gladys is here. Let's find out what she has gathered for us in this edition of The Brief on My Media Prime Television. Good morning and happy weekend, Gladys.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lasha. Bonjour à toi aussi, bonjour à vous. Et merci de nous retrouver une fois de plus pour cette émission bilingue de revue de presse sur My Media Prime Télévision. Alors, ce matin, nous allons commencer avec les titres dans le journal Éco Santé qui nous parle, lui, de la disponibilité en produits sanguins déjà au Cameroun. Le Centre national de transfusion sanguine est donc en activité dans ce pays. Les détails sont donc en page 6 et 7 du journal Éco Santé ce matin. Nous continuons ce matin avec le journal Cameroun Tribune qui nous parle en grand titre du chemin de fer Belabo-Ngaoundéré. 80 milliards de francs CFA ont donc été alloués pour sa réhabilitation. Les détails sont en page 2 et 3 du journal Cameroun Tribune ce matin. Mesdames, Messieurs, nous poursuivons avec la nouvelle expression qui nous parle du barreau du Cameroun. Les anciens bâtonniers montent au créneau. En effet, ce sont donc 8 anciens bâtonniers de l'ordre des avocats du Cameroun qui, pour la première fois, se mettent ensemble pour faire l'autopsie du système judiciaire camerounais en général et particulièrement les profonds maux qui minent le barreau du Cameroun ces dernières années. Ils viennent donc de publier une déclaration historique qui intervient à un moment où les élections lumineuses se préparent dans une comparation à la croisée des chemins. Les détails sont donc en page 6 et 7 de la nouvelle expression ce matin. En page 3, le journal nous parle des droits humains au Cameroun. Maximilien Ngombe a donc été honoré. En page 4, le journal nous parle de la vie chère au Cameroun. Le CDHC pour une hausse du SMIC. Nous continuons, mesdames, messieurs, ce matin avec le journal Le Jour qui nous parle lui aussi en grand titre de l'ordre des avocats du Cameroun. Le coup de gueule des anciens bâtonniers, l'intégralité de la déclaration de Yondo Black, Patrice Monté, Luc Zende, Akere Mouna, Charles Chongang, Eta Bassong, Jackson Ngamga. Les détails sont donc en page 5 du journal Le Jour ce matin. En page 3, le journal nous parle du tribunal criminel spécial Vamulke dédouané par une co-accusé, par un co-accusé, autant pour moi, Vamulke dédouané par un co-accusé. En effet, l'ancien directeur général de la CRTV est accusé d'avoir procédé de manière illégale à l'apparition des anciens dettes fictives de la CRTV. Les détails sont donc en page 3 du journal Le Jour ce matin. En page 9, le journal Le Jour nous parle de football. Les clubs veulent donc bloquer le championnat. Dans une correspondance datée du 5 mai 2022, les présidents à travers la SEC demandent le rapport des matchs programmés pour ce week-end. Mesdames, Messieurs, nous clôturons donc ce matin avec le journal Émergence. Le journal Émergence qui nous parle, lui, en grand titre de la crise anglophone au Cameroun. Le journal nous révèle que 90% du commerce entre le Cameroun et le Nigeria sont donc interrompus. Les détails sont en page 5 du journal Émergence ce matin. En page 2, le journal nous parle d'insalubrité au Cameroun. Le journal nous révèle en effet que la ville de Yaoundé serait dans des odeurs nauséabondes. Mesdames, Messieurs, c'est ici que nous nous arrêtons pour les titres en langue française. Place à la découverte des titres en langue anglaise avec toi, Lasha.
Thank you, Bomotongina Gladys. Let's kickstart this morning with the Guardian Post newspaper. The Guardian Post this morning is focusing on what happened in Meme division of the southwest region of the country, where population captures beats hands dreaded amber commanders to the soldiers in that part of the country. Two dreaded self-styled separatist commanders in Meme division of the southwest region of the country have been captured, severely beaten and handed to the defense and security officers in that part of the country. The notorious separatist leaders were recently picked up by courageous inhabitants recently following repeated acts of atrocities meted on them by the Amber leaders and their foot soldiers in that part of the country. More details on page 9 of this edition of the Guardian Post newspaper. The Guardian Post is also interested in the move being taken by St. Louis University Institute or Higher Institute. The paper tells us that St. Louis Higher Institute, leading nation in vision to create 2 million jobs yearly. More details on pages 6 and 7 of this edition of the Guardian Post newspaper. The Guardian Post newspaper on page 11 is telling us that the Presbyterian Pediatric Eye Hospital performs a successful first eye surgery. That's in Limbe, chief town of Fako division of the southwest region of the country. The Presbyterian Pediatric Eye Hospital in Limbe, Fako division of the southwest region of the country, has recorded, according to the paper, huge success in its first ever eye surgery. The newly constructed modern hospital with state-of-the-art equipment and facilities inaugurated last July 2021 with main focus to treat eye issues in children in particular and adults as a whole, is now proving its worth as a stitch in time, as we are told by the paper. More details on page 11, like I earlier mentioned, of this edition of the set newspaper. We talk about other issues. This time around, we are taking you to the media newspaper to talk about the massive turnout of the population, 10,000 in number, to witness the ordination of the Bishop of Manthe in the southwest region of the country. More details in this edition of the ceremony which took place yesterday, that was presided over by the Archbishop of the Metropolitan Archdiocese of Bamenda, His Grace Andrenkia, who was there to preside over the ceremony. And we are equally told by the said newspaper on page 3 that the head of state representative, the minister delegate at the presidency in charge of defense, Joseph Beti Asomu, was equally present during the ordination ceremony in that part of the country. Let's talk about this award that was given to two Cameroonians, frontline human rights defenders or activists. We are told by the said newspaper that villain at home, hero abroad, Abobala wins 2022 Robert F. Kennedy Award. The paper tells us further that the indefatigable human rights defender and the globe-trotting founder, CEO of Buea-based Center for Human Rights and Democracy in Africa, Kongo Felix Agbobala, and Maximilien Gombe of Redak are the two core or joint winners of the 2022 F or RFK Award for human rights across the globe. We are told Bala and Maximilien will be conferred the award at the ceremony to take place or to be hosted at the U.S. Senate Roselle office building in July 2022. More details in this edition of the Median newspaper. Let's talk Anglophone crisis. Anglophone crisis, where three notorious or amber enablers, as the paper puts it, on trial in the United States of America for arms trafficking. The three Ambazona enablers, according to the said newspaper, are standing trial in the United States of America for their role in trafficking arms into the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon. We end this morning with Municipal Updates newspaper, which is also dedicating its front page to the ceremony which took place yesterday, the ordination of the Bishop of Manfi. Thousands, according to the paper, turned out to witness the new bishop's ordination. And the minister delegate at the presidency in charge of defense, Joseph Betia Somu, was there, as we are told by the said newspaper. Thank you for watching, televiewers on My Media Prime TV. We are back in the studio to continue with our discussions. Before we get to our guests in the studio, let us move straight to the nation's political capital to meet our other resource person, who is the National Communications Secretary to the Popular Action Party of Njang Dennis. We are welcoming Elvis Mbane. Good morning, sir, and welcome once again.
Good morning, Mr. Lasha. Good morning to your co-presenter in the studio and to all viewers of this wonderful program.
Yes, Elvis, more separatist fighters. This time around, commanders, they are falling. The population has risen in many communities in the northwest and southwest regions. This time around, we are talking about an incident which happened in Meme Division, where the population, where the courageous young men and women took upon themselves to go arrest these notorious Amazona generals, and they finally handed them over to the military over there in Meme Division. What do you have to say to this change of events, or these trends that we are witnessing in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon?
Mr. Lasha, honestly, the question is difficult for me to get. The lines are not quite clear. But if your question has to do with the fact that the population is today rising up against the Ambazonian fighters, arresting some and handing over to government, I think the message is simple, the message is clear. The people are fed up with the Ambazonian crisis. The people are fed up with the systems and strategies put against by the same people who yesterday presented themselves as some sort of liberators for the Anglophone community. You know, at the onset of this thing, the population got caught up in a trap between the state fighters and the armed fighters. But today, we realize that the same Amazonians who treated themselves as liberators have turned out to be the worst persons who tortured their own grandfather as parents, thereby accounting for the reason why today communities stand and correct some of them and hand them back to the state. I think that is what I can say. Like I say, unfortunately, I didn't quite get questions. I don't know if I'm talking in line with what you asked.
Yes,
are not quite the best.
You have answered my question rightly, Elvis. We'll be coming back to you. Let us also get to Amadou Tante, who is a human rights defender. He's coming from an NGO that is very much interested in fighting for the rights of the less privileged in the northwest and southwest regions of the country. Good morning, sir, and welcome once again.
Good morning, thank you for this opportunity. Good morning to telespectators of My Media Prime Television. It's always a pleasure for me to guest on the program.
Okay, we are talking about two front-line activists or human rights defenders who have been awarded the prestigious FRK award, and they will be conferred the title or the award in the United States of America come July. As a human rights defender, what was your reaction when you read about this news or you heard about it?
No, actually, I think it's really a good move and a way of encouraging us, the young ones, to work harder for us to equally have an opportunity to have something as such in the nearest future. Because what we all know what Barisa Abongo and Madam Maximilian Gombe have been doing with regard to human rights in Cameroon. These are very active human rights defenders who are breaking all the odds to make sure that they pass the message, try to promote and protect the life of the civilians that are being violated on daily basis particularly by the government of Cameroon. So they merit both of them merit the prize.
Okay, when you look at the way the media newspaper puts it this morning, the media newspaper, villain at home, hero abroad. Quite, controversial headlines, but notwithstanding, is the median far from when you look at the way the media puts it. Most of these people who are fighting for the rights of the less privileged, they are not recognized in their own home country. Sometimes they have to even be called up and interrogated, questioned, they torture them sometimes.
No, what I think, especially in a dictatorial regime like Cameroon, is that when you are a human rights defender, you are being regarded as like an enemy of the republic, because they think that you are working against their own rules. We are under a dictatorial regime where the government who's holding everybody hostage. Anybody who attempt to speak the truth or who attempt to say what to call on the government to respect the law in place, you are regarded as what we commonly call black leg, or as an enemy of the republic. So that's the reason, because it was the government that is supposed to honor or to give this privilege or award to meritorious defenders in the country like here in Cameroon. But it's regrettable that we are being recognized, but these people are being recognized abroad, but they are not recognized by the same government. The government actually knows that what they are doing is a very good job. They are playing their role. They are trying to do everything possible to make sure that they promote these rights of the less privileged of Cameroonians which are being violated. But the issue there is that they don't
accused some of these human rights defenders, especially Maximilien Gombe, who had a minister who comes up to say the foreign bodies or some countries are trying to use these NGOs to destabilize Cameroon. We've heard that on several occasions.
No, but that is not true. Just the fact that he was a minister who said so doesn't mean that it is true, first of all. But we all know that human rights defenders mostly work with international partners. That's because that's where they are trying to base their allegations. They mostly work with international partners who sponsor projects to be executed. But sometimes these people are like regarding these sponsors as maybe enemies, or maybe because they are not in any way.
But like the last time Madame Gombe was interrogated in Yaoundé, fortunately for her and unfortunately for the security, defense and security forces, she was out of the country. So a battery or college of lawyers represented her in Yaoundé, where she was being questioned on the fact that within 3 months, her organization withdrew over 400 million francs CFA.
No, it doesn't matter. Even if it
what
was
what did they do with the money?
No, even if it's
even
if it's 1 billion, it doesn't mean anything, because the issue is here is that most of these human rights defenders or human organizations are being sponsored on different projects. So she can withdraw 1 billion, depends on the project she's having at hand. And the issue there is that this project must not be executed on that same day, on that same month. Most of the projects are projects that you have to execute a particular project for more than 1 year. So yes, so it can be more than that amount, and it doesn't have anything to do with what the government is questioning. But at least the issue there is that it's very clear. If they see that she has withdrawn such amount of money, that the government might think that money is not meant for the execution of her project, it's true. It's normal for her to be called to question so that she can at least explain it to the government or those who are responsible exactly how the money is supposed to be used, or the projects that are involved.
Est-ce que l'argent qu'elle a investi pour ces projets c'est l'argent qui a été pris dans les caisses du gouvernement camerounais?
No, the money has been sent by donors, by their international partners.
L'argent qu'elle a reçu des partenaires extérieurs, il faudrait qu'elle justifie comment est-ce qu'elle utilise cet argent au Cameroun.
No, the issue is that sometimes the government they are looking regarding us human rights defenders as enemies. They are claiming that
400 million is huge money, right? Anyway, 400 million is huge money.
No, it's not a huge money. In that context, that was a very big organization that can support, that are doing heavy projects that can take more
in Cameroon, but in Central Africa.
Central Africa. So the issue is that the government scheme, they are trying to limit unfounded allegations on most of these human rights defenders that they are receiving money from abroad and doing same to promote to sponsor terrorists. So those are the way that the government are trying. But those are just measures that the government is trying to do in order to pin these people, to tell the world that these people are not doing the right job. Meanwhile, the world already know the truth that we are doing.
And Abobala too has come under heavy criticism from the government and even the ambassador. Sometimes when he checks the excesses of the military, becomes a problem. He's labeled all sorts of names.
That's what I was trying to say, because when you are working as a human rights defender, I think you are working in line with the law. We are, in this context, we are working with regard to the international humanitarian laws, that is the current conflicts. And the issue is that your opinions, you have rights as to opinion as well as your own, or you're on the laws that you are trying to enforce. When the ambassador separatists do something that we know that is not right, we say that this one is not the right thing, this is not how it's supposed to be done. When the government will say them that this government, it doesn't matter whether the separatist fighters will like you or the government forces, the government will like you. When you are doing your duty and you know that you are on the right track, you have no reason to be afraid of anybody. Just go ahead and execute your things the way you know it is and
so
the way it's supposed to be.
The question many Cameroonians are asking, why is it so difficult for government to recognize some of these people who have put their lives at the forefront in making Cameroon proud or defending the rights of the less privileged in the country when Cameroon has ratified and signed so many conventions in that light? What is so difficult for the country to recognize these people?
And the funny thing is that Cameroon has one of the best laws in the whole world, but the problem is applicability of this law. So what I know the government is doing is that the current regime in place does not recognize meritocracy. What they do, sometimes they are claiming to tell us that they are working on regional balance, meanwhile they are there working on tribalism, favoritism, and all the like bribery and corruption. Meanwhile, they claim telling Cameroon that no, we are talking on regional balance, but at the same time they are not respecting the regional balance. So they are doing virtually everything possible to confuse the people and pin or give bad image to those who are really working to make sure that they protect the interests of Cameroon and Cameroonians.
Ok, Gladys.
Effectivement, c'est une question qui taraude beaucoup l'esprit. À voir au jour d'aujourd'hui, on vous avait parlé peut-être du fait que on parle de répartition des responsabilités en fonction des régions, mais la plupart du temps, c'est plutôt en fonction des...
And so it's no longer strange. I will know how our people are managing it to do their own things in this country.
Yeah, Amadou, we are talking about... there was a correspondence that was written by the Minister of Secondary Education regarding this issue of strike action in the country. And we are reading also that over 200 lawyers, they will be protesting in Buea to denounce what they term injustice on their colleagues by a certain magistrate in Buea. Strike here and there, left and right, and the government is apparently not solving the equation or solving the strike action the right way, as many people put it. What is really the problem with Cameroonians when it comes to demanding for their rights?
No, actually, it's often said that rights are always claimed. So if rights are always claimed, they are not given.
Is it that they are not doing it the right way, or the solutions that government is giving are not the right solutions?
No, actually, the first thing there is that the government is not respecting the laws, what has been put in place. And what they are trying to do, sometimes they are diverting the attention from the real issue. Sometimes the people are asking for this thing that the government go about giving the other one. So those are where there's problem. Even though the other one they are giving, it will benefit other people, but most of the majority of the people will not be beneficial to them. So that's why issues as strike like this will continue.
Mais on a des grèves dans presque tous les domaines déjà, tous les secteurs au Cameroun.
Yes, that's the issue. Why I say that people's rights are not respected. That's why we have been advocating for this issue, that these employers or the government to make sure that they respect the rights of all their employees. That the government should also be an example to even the other employees of the private sector. But when the government is doing things as such, even the private sector turn on their part to begin to do the same thing, because they know very well that even when they will terminate the contract of someone abusively, they will go to court, they will go there and give bribe, and at the end they are only, since they have money and they have the power, you will not have a place to go.
Okay, and recently the Prime Minister held an interministerial meeting in Yaoundé to evaluate the instruction, how far they have gone with the implementation of the decision that President Paul Biya took when it comes to solving teachers' problem in the country. Do we really need an interministerial meeting to work on an instruction? Probably President Paul Biya said pay the teachers.
Oh yes, I think
the PM is still holding meetings to evaluate how far they have gone with the payment of the teachers.
No, I think with the meeting it is important. At least they need to hold a meeting to make sure that they evaluate, as you are saying, if the different ministries concerned are advancing with the decision of the head of state, or the decision is being respected. Because if the Prime Minister is the head of these ministers, it's very necessary for him to do such things. And these ministerial meetings between these ministers is a normal thing that is supposed to be held regularly on every issue to make sure that they know how things are going in Cameroon. Different ministers come about and tell the Prime Minister how the different ministries are going or things are moving.
But when a head says pay these people,
yes,
do you need to waste time again? We have a minister of secondary education and also the minister for basic education. Do they really need to wait for the PM to call them back again for them to evaluate how far they have gone with the payments?
No, actually, in reality, they don't need to wait for the PM. They are supposed to execute execute the decision as given to them. But sometimes you might find out that even some of the ministry concerned, maybe the Minister of Finance have not transferred the budget from his own ministry to this minister.
Mais pourquoi,
so it becomes a very big problem.
Il n'y a pas d'argent dans son ministère ou bien quoi?
No, as we often say,
le président va demander qui on paye les enseignants.
Because when President Paul Biya says pay teachers, he has already made the money available for the ministries or the different ministers concerned.
And he's made the money might have been made available only on paper. And they are supposed to pass through the Ministry of Finance to have this money. So sometimes, as I was saying, when they go to the Ministry of Finance, they see the money is not yet, they ask them to wait. So they don't have any choice. The minister don't have any choice than to wait for.
But the emergency, they say desperate situations demand desperate measures.
Most of these people does not care as long as they are living living very luxurious life. They don't care about these situations or the sufferings of the ordinary Cameroonians. So what matters to them is only their own personal life.
Amadou Tante, un jour avant cette réunion interministérielle, le ministre de l'Éducation secondaire a envoyé une lettre à ses délégués régionaux, une lettre de menace pour les enseignants grévistes.
The issue is that the first thing here is that this minister, even the president of the republic, has acknowledged that there's a problem that should need to be solved. I don't see the reason why the minister of secondary education should be threatening.
Nalova says that some of the teachers are exaggerating, that the government has already solved some of their problems. Why are they still staying? But why are they not going to school?
That they are already solved some of their problems and not all of their problems. All these problems need to be addressed accordingly. These are dues that they are being owed by the government, and the government need to do everything possible to make sure that they have all their dues for them to go back to class. Because even going to classes when they are not taking their time to teach the students is not even necessary. It's preferable for them not to go there than to go there and tell us that they are teaching students in class when they are not taking things serious. So as long as these child are not paid all their dues, they will continue to have a lot of problems here in the country.
Okay, Amadou Tante, we continue to talk about other issues in the newspaper this morning, like the coronation or the ordination of the Bishop of Mamfe. Yesterday, the minister delegate at the presidency in charge of defense, Joseph Betia Somo, was in Mamfe to personally represent President Paul Biya on that occasion, which took place yesterday. It was chaired over by the Archbishop of the Metropolitan Archdiocese of Bamenda, is Grace Andre Kia. 10,000 people turned out to attend the ceremony.
Let me first of all take this opportunity to congratulate Bishop Andrew Kia, the Archbishop of Bamenda, for his election as the president of the National Episcopal Conference. After all, that's a very brave man who has been working, especially in regard to this Anglophone crisis. He has been doing a lot of things that we have seen both national and international to make sure that peace returns in the Anglophone region. And we are equally praying that the new Bishop of Mamfe should equally work tirelessly to make sure, because the current Bishop of Bamenda left Mamfe and came to Bamenda. We're equally praying that he too should take his responsibility and make sure that he work tirelessly to make sure that we have the contribute with some of his collaborators to make sure that we have peace back in our regions. And we really hope on them, because as men of God, we are hoping on them too to play have a very vital role to play for the return of normalcy in the Anglophone regions of the country.
Okay, Bana Evis, if you are still there, can you hear me? Apparently, we've lost Evis there. Bana Evis is the communications secretary to the Popular Action Party. He was joining us from the nation's political capital, Yaoundé. We were talking about the situation. You were trying to talk about the rules of the men of God in this crisis. Yeah. That they have to ensure that they do everything to, bring back normalcy. And some of these men of God have had to face, let me not put it prosecution. They have had to be called up by security officers to come and answer. There's a priest in Kumbu who was accused of collaborating with Ambazonian fighters. So how should men of God contribute in bringing normalcy by staying neutral without being accused either by the regime or the separatist fighters?
What is common here is that most of it, as I already said at the beginning, that in Cameroon here, when you are doing your job well, you are often regarded on the contrary by the regime in place. Because in the context of the conflicts, sometimes when a man of God come across maybe he meets a separatist fighter, he needs to behave the way that of the separatist fighters for him to save his life as well, and as well as when he comes across to the military, we could have a contact with a military man. He has to do everything possible to make sure that he saves his life. And sometimes when he's heard that the separatist fighters maybe came to your house, or you were seen with separatist fighters, the military now come to say that they want to arrest you, telling all sorts of things that you are supporting separatist fighters, which is not supposed to be like that. And these are people that are supposed to be respected by all possible means. These people need to make sure that the respect men of God, be it in the context, because first of all, with regard to the context of a crisis in conflict, we have international humanitarian law, the Geneva Convention, that is protecting people like men of God, that they need to be protected in all sense by all possible means. In as long as they are not directly involved in hostility. But these ones are what we have been seeing in the northwest and the southwest region. We have seen a lot of men of God who have suffered severely. Last time we were in the security meeting in Yaoundé, and one of a pastor coming from the northwest region even told us how his Jesus Christ, the Jesus Christ he has in his church is now Ebola. That the bullet from the military shattered one of the legs of his Jesus Christ. So those are the kind of things that these military are going about, shooting their guns anyhow, just randomly causing a lot of atrocity to our people. Just imagine Jesus Christ having one leg. It's really a terrible situation.
Ok, merci Amadou Tanté. On a le problème d'insalubrité dans nos villes au Cameroun. Isaka est encore en grève. Problème de salaire.
Non-respect of the engagement by the government. That's a very normal thing, as I said in Cameroon here. These people are not respecting the engagement.
Isakam is an independent company.
It's an independent company, absolutely.
But
they need subvention from the government. Yes, that's what they are doing. They need subvention from the government to carry out their activities. So these people are not doing the same thing, and it's happening everywhere. They are not paying teachers, they are not paying salaries of workers, they are not respecting the dues of people, they are not respecting their engagement and all the like.
If the money is taking time to leave the quarter that is supposed to leave and get to Isakam, how is it the problem of the GM of Isakam? Or
no, I don't think
the
it's the problem
of the government.
It is the problem of the government. They are supposed to give the money. But I don't think it's the end problem with regard to Isakam. The Director General of Isakam does not have to take his personal money to go about sponsoring or putting fuel and paying workers and doing all these things to satisfy Cameroon, to satisfy the government, to satisfy Cameroonians.
The other question that we're asking: Can this company not diversify? You know, try to maybe use some of the stuff that they carry to make some other products that can bring in money for the company to sustain its workers, should they find themselves in a difficult situation?
No, what you are saying is a very good thing that's being done in so many countries, but maybe because of the fact that these people are not yet equipped
but recently,
to that extent.
But recently they imported so many trucks, about 100 trucks, if I get the statistic correct.
New ones,
and you know how costly those trucks.
It's a normal thing. Are you saying that they were supposed to strike again because they bought new trucks?
That's prioritizing. To prioritize your needs.
No, it is this truck that they are using to carrying this debt. First of all, know that it's this truck that they are using to carry the debts. Okay. So they so how are they going to, if they don't have this truck, how are they going to function? They are not going to function well without this truck. So they need this truck as priority, because even if they have the money and they don't have the truck, how will they do it in order to carry this thing? Are these people going to carry it on their heads?
Why could they not probably cut it into, slash it into half? Maybe they import 50 trucks and then use money for the remaining 50 trucks to solve the problem, because this thing has been recurrent. Isakan workers are
on parle dans une période où le Cameroun fait face au choléra, sans parler du Covid-19.
No, I think what you are saying is correct, but the issue is that the Director General of Isakam should not be a fool to go and buy that number of trucks. If you are seeing the director buy this number of trucks, it means that there's a necessity, and therefore it's very necessary for him to execute his tax or the different tasks that they have within the country.
Ok, Amadou Tanté.
Donc définitivement, les villes du Cameroun doivent rester sales.
No, that's not the problem of Director General of Isakam. It's the problem of the government. Let the government play its role well and expect a good result from Isakam. It's very simple like that.
Is there no other way they can try to cajole the workers to come back to the street? Because the streets of Yaoundé, Bamenda,
even
Douala, they are really, really dirty.
And the greatest problem is that when the people are functioning through Isakam, there's always a problem. Because you can't remember that in some cities, even Bamenda used to function under the city council, the government delegate. When things were happening this way, I don't think we were seeing all this type of trash everywhere and all the like. The city mayor was, or the government delegate was doing everything possible to make sure that they pay their normal, they respect their normal engagement with those who are involved. This garbage company.
Pourquoi aujourd'hui ils ne le font plus? Parce qu'ils sont toujours.
The government have imposed Isakam on them. That is always Isakam that we're working there, because the government that decide. That is always Isakam that we're working with, because they know very well that they will use take money of that they were supposed to pay Isakam and begin to our people, directors or ministers will begin to take them and keep it inside on the back door.
Okay, Amadou Tanté, I'm taking you to the Southwest region once again. After Ondian Conference for Peace, we are told that all Southwest Youth Conference opens in Buea tomorrow. Another forum to talk peace, and this time around the youths of the Southwest region of the country, they are converging on Buea to talk peace.
This is very, very laudable initiative. At least we know that the youth will have a greater role to play with regard to ending the conflict in the Anglophone regions of the country. But my only worry is that when we are going to talk, we should go to talk as independent people. Not that we are being imposed things to talk there, or we are going to talk on behalf of people, or we are going to say what maybe the government asks us to do. Because we have noticed that most often, I'm not saying that this one is being sponsored by government or done by the government. Most often, when people meet, government accepts that the people should meet like this, they know very well that you are going to say what they ask you to say or these people are going to just to represent them.
How can
Donc,
you,
vous voulez
how
dire
can you
que
say that?
ceux qui veulent véritablement
So
travailler pour la
how do
paix,
we
on
solve
leur
the
permet
problem?
pas?
So how do we
No,
solve
I'm
the
saying
problem?
that we are praying that these people should be going there to talk genuinely, to brainstorm or bring their own proposition on how they think that the crisis will be resolved.
Even
Not
if
that
they bring
should
the proposition, there is still one person
yes.
who has the moral authority and all other authorities
Yes.
to be able to resolve the problem. If the person does not want to resolve the problem, how would the problem be resolved even if the youths send their plights?
No, the most
or
important
their
thing,
genuine plights.
the most important thing there is that is for the youth to first of all come out, sit down and brainstorm and bring their own propositions like other women have been doing and other groups have been doing to tell the government that this is how we think, this is how we think this.
So
this
where
can
have we
be
been with
resolved.
those propositions from the women and other groups?
No, we know that when it concerns conflicts, we need to take a lot of time. Quite remember that I was doing something from about Colombia. I was saying something that way there was once a war that way it had more than 49 or 40 something conferences were held only to solve the crisis. And at the end, the crisis was still resolved. I don't know why in Cameroon they have to hold the so-called national dialogue since 2019. Up to date, the government is unable to make sure to hold another conference for them to try to see if the conflict can be resolved. At least they need to keep doing same because they don't know exactly which conference or which one part of
Does
this
it
is going
mean
to solve the
that
problem.
Cameroon is not following the right steps, I mean, towards conflict resolution? And if no, what are the steps? What should we do to come out of this situation, Amadou Tante?
No, well, I think there is no clear defined steps that must be followed. Each and every, because actually, as I already said, they don't know the particular step that can resolve the problem.
So each
But the only
conflict
thing
has
here
its
is that
own.
it may depend on the context, the particular context of the conflicts. Because the only problem the only thing I think that is not making things go on the right way is that when the government is organizing things as such, or they are doing things as such, they don't give opportunity for people to speak their mind or to freely express their opinion, or they don't give opportunity to, because the conflict is between two people. Because if you, the government and its enemy, and these enemies are the separatists. But if the government is holding conference or holding things as such with their friends ministers or other colleagues who are not even directly involved in hostility, it will not make any sense. How can you solve a problem when you're having a problem? You don't even call the person who is opposing
How
you
do
to
you
the
call
ground.
the enemy? If you call the enemy,
Then how
the enemy is
that
not
they don't want to
coming.
solve the problem? How are they going to solve the problem now when they are not calling the enemy? The only enemy is there on their
The
back.
government has been calling the enemy, and the enemy does not want to come and sit on the same table with
Calling
the
the same enemy that are having international warrant of arrest that have not yet been cancelled. It doesn't make any sense. So the government should not expect that these people are foolish enough to leave their resident country and come to Cameroon to attend what they call the major national dialogue, where some of them are still having international warrant of arrest that was signed against them. It's still very valid. So that's the problem. That is the government want to solve the problem. The government to make sure that they call the enemies on the table, and we are preferring a neutral ground because this Cameroon is not safe. And a country like even it could be an African country. The country like Nigeria is not even safe for us anymore, because I can quite imagine that Nigeria went ahead to violate the international convention against torture by forcefully extraditing separatist leaders from Nigeria to Cameroon, knowing very well that we can all know what they are going through in Cameroon. It's all kind of torture. Every day we keep hearing that there was an attempt to poison them. All that was still terrible things. So they got this on several things. The government should make sure that we keep praying that the government should make. And let me say here that we are proposing an intra-Anglophone dialogue. So what we are saying is that intra-Anglophone dialogue, I will keep insisting on this thing that government should make sure, government in national and international partners should make sure that they facilitate an intra-Anglophone dialogue. That's a dialogue between all the different stakeholders.
But if they don't want to talk amongst themselves, today you hear Ayabacho insulting Sako insult Ayabacho. Everybody, this one calls this one a devil, another one demon, a scammer. At the end of the day, what are they fighting for? No, it's very normal that there are always opposition within any particular group. Even within our government here, we quite remember that on several occasions we have seen Prime Minister going to talk peace in Bamenda, where another minister will go on RFI and begin to tell terrible story, contradicting the same thing that the Prime Minister was saying. So there are always opposition. It's very normal. These people are fighting for the same goal. These separatist leaders, they are fighting for the same goal, which is separation. Even though they are using different modus operandi, most of them are taking different routes. They are taking different routes but to the same direction. So it doesn't matter whether they are disagreeing or not. At least the government should play its own part. Because it's very normal that at the end, even when the problem will be solved, it's not all the separatist leaders that will succumb or will accept a solution, a proposed solution that will maybe be brought by the government. Okay, so you're saying we are destined we are destined to perish. That's why we are destined. The country is destined to perish as long as the government continues to remain in silence. Because we are still who is the government? We all of us. No, we are the government, and we have those who are representing the government. That's where there's a problem. We are the government, and the people who are representing us, and they are the ones that are supposed to take decisions on issues as such. And if they are not representing us well, why are we still waiting? you know, to vote them out?
No, it's not yet time. I think by 2025 it's fast coming, and I think that's an opportunity for Cameroonians to make sure that they vote. I could keep saying that, to make sure that they vote out the current regime for us to have a new regime with new blood, with new ideas, and so that maybe things might likely change to the positive direction.
Okay, thank you, Amadou Tante, for coming. Thank you to Evis Mbane from Yaoundé. Though the lines were not the best today, we thank you for still staying with us to give your own contribution. The program was produced by Christain Tebong. We were Gladys Bomotongina and myself, Lasha Kingsley. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.